This is the most important question for anyone who is or isn't on TRT for a couple of reasons. So testosterone replacement therapy kind of becomes a no-brainer because we don't have to worry about damaging a natural production that's already destroyed. Start TRT at a young age, which is a big commitment to make. It's a serious medical intervention to make, or go through the rest of your life with low testosterone levels and see how that works out for you.
What about just like your natural testosterone? I mean, we know like a great way to get it is to be young, but like, and then also it seems like you have to have a lot of things intact in order to have your testosterone be, or at least it seems that way. At least it seems like you got to have your sleep intact and like all these other things. What is just like, you know, some not natural testosterone kind of do for us, and how could someone maybe go about boosting that up in a safe way?
Yeah, and I think that's...
Which I'm not saying an injection of it. I'm not saying it's not safe, but...
Yeah. This is the most important question for anyone who is or isn't on TRT for a couple of reasons. So we should always be, if we're looking to optimize testosterone, the first part of that discussion should be how can we try to fix the natural production first? Testosterone replacement therapy should only be initiated if the cause of low testosterone is what's called intractable, meaning we can't fix it. There's nothing that can be done. It's broken, it's gone. And in that case, testosterone replacement therapy kind of becomes a no-brainer because we don't have to worry about damaging a natural production that's already destroyed. If it's decimated, it's not going to be of any merit to you. But what we want to do is see if we can recover the natural levels optimally. And the reason why this is still important for guys on TRT is what I've found practicing in the space for a long time now is that if you're wanting to inject yourself with optimal levels of testosterone, you have to be living in a way that you would be making those levels naturally if you could. The gap between those two scenarios is what causes side effects. And people can fixate on the mechanism and how the side effect occurs. It can be mediated by estrogen or water retention or this or that. But what's driving that inflammatory cascade is taking a supercharged engine and putting it into a piece of shit Suzuki Swift. And this creates a biological disconnect because this is unnatural. This is now super physiological, even if it's within the reference range. Because if you are overweight, alcoholic, you know, looking after yourself terribly, you're never going to be at the top of the reference range or above that for testosterone. It's not possible. So if we then take that and go, okay, body, you're suppressing the production of this hormone because I'm living so terribly, but I'm smarter than you. I'm going to come in and inject the levels of a healthy 21-year-old. You're kind of asking for a problem. So it's important that guys on or off TRT are looking at the same thing, which is what can I do to either optimize my natural production or optimize the way my exogenous, meaning external testosterone works. And it's basically, it's doing all the stuff my grandma told me to do growing up. Getting plenty of sleep, getting plenty of sunshine, not eating garbage, removing the vices is a big one. Drugs, alcohol, junk food, not doing enough exercise. That's the big cluster that causes the most problems in practice. But excess body fat's a really big one. Excess body fat. Anything over 15% body fat in men will contribute to some degree of insulin resistance. And this is the pathway that drives a lot of these metabolic problems as well, is insulin resistance.
Yeah, just having higher body fat, your fasted insulin most likely is going to be a little higher. And then over time, your body's like gets resistant to that insulin since it's constantly elevated, right?
Absolutely. And this problem extrapolated out chronically seems to be the underlying driving factor for the 4 big diseases of aging, being cancer, heart disease, dementia, and diabetes. So insulin sensitivity is very important, and the main thing that we can all do day to day to improve insulin sensitivity as well as natural testosterone production is plenty of exercise, a good amount of muscle mass, and a lean body fat percentage.
So you use the term or the term broken, right? If they can't get it back themselves. Now, I guess what one would wonder is like, how do you know if you're at that place? Like, have you been doing good protocols for a good amount of time and you see no change? Like, how does someone actually know?
Yeah, this is a really good question because this is the stuff that's practical, right? So the part that kind of prefaces this discussion is that 20, 30, 40 years ago, testosterone replacement therapy was just for older men. So you get to the age that, you know, a woman would hit menopause, a man hits andropause, levels decline, testicular function drops off, and then we replace what the testicles can no longer produce. The problem is that there's a huge amount of men in my generation, and even the generation a bit older, anywhere from guys aged from 18 to 35, who are doing everything right to the point that it's like almost kind of neurotic, even obsessive. And they've still got the testosterone levels of a 90-year-old woman.
If you've just started TRT, it is completely normal to feel overwhelmed and confused. There's a lot of new territory to cover, and there is a lot of conflicting information. I wrote TRT 101 so that you can have everything that you need to know in an instruction manual in one place that you can refer back to, that you can have all the questions answered before they even come up. TRT 101 is my best practice approach for TRT from start to finish, and it contains everything that you need to avoid all the challenges and pitfalls that I've seen come up in my clients over the last 5 years. You can check it out via the link below.
And sometimes it can be due to damage from anabolic steroids. So using steroids under the age of 25 does seem to cause more permanent suppression to the system, especially the 19-nor-based steroids, nandrolone, trenbolone. Don't know why that is, but that's a trend that a lot of people have picked up. But
maybe permanent damage.
It would seem so, yes.
So some people, especially the younger people, could, because you kind of hear guys that use stuff, you know, they're like, oh, all you got to do is go off and you're going to be fine. But there's some people that are getting permanent damage.
Especially from the SARMs. And this is the problem is guys are going for SARMs because they think they're safer than steroids. But like I've seen suppression from steroids all the time. Like guys come back with like, you know, bottom of the range or just below the bottom of the range testosterone levels. I've seen 6 to 12 months after SARMs where the levels are literally zero, like almost nothing.
Wow.
Because these are experimental compounds.
This is a big deal, by the way, for young people that eventually want to maybe try to have a kid someday.
Yeah.
They could be in great compromise and not even really know it.
It's a huge thing that people are becoming more and more blasé with. You know, when I was 18, 19 in the gym, steroids was like it was super taboo. Now it's just like, oh, I've been training for a couple of years. I'm on TRT. Might as well do a cycle.
Blast.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, when I look around at some gyms, I'm like, there's a lot of shit running through this place right now. Who's got this stuff? Who's the hookup? You know?
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in the bloodstream that's not
showing up in a Lambo.
So that's one of the challenges that we have now, which I think is a relatively new challenge as well, is that people are going through puberty obese. This didn't used to be a thing. So one of the problems that we're seeing in practice is that guys who are like, you know, let's say 25 years old who are obese, they're told, oh, well, if you lose weight, your testosterone levels will recover and you'll be just fine. That doesn't really seem to be happening, at least in practice. And all we can really hypothesize is that, you know, if you're obese during development, that system might not develop properly. And then if you take till after that development window is closed to fix the issue, that seems to be causing some permanent endocrine issues as well. And the last one, without, you know, sounding like it's all this fucking doom and gloom pitch, is the endocrine disrupting chemicals. So this is something that, you know, people theorize about. We don't really have hard data on this. We just have like, okay, this is a trend. There's some mechanistic theory. We have some observations. And I think it's a piece of the puzzle, but the plastics, pollutions, and pesticides that, you know, we're all bubble wrapped with and grown up with everything covered in plastic, it would seem that that could also be having an endocrine disrupting effect over time. And I do wonder when and if the science will catch up to that as well. So we're currently in a situation now where a lot of young men are needing to fix their hormones who shouldn't have to, but are still in a situation where they're it's kind of like a catch-22. It's either you start TRT at a young age, which is a big commitment to make. It's a serious medical intervention to make, or go through the rest of your life with low testosterone levels and see how that works out for you. And neither of those options are very good.
And you'd have to make big changes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to get outside more and all these things. And you might not feel well. Like a lot of times, once somebody's already sick, they're kind of trapped. And they might just be like mildly sick. And they just maybe aren't participating in sports. They're not really doing anything super active. And next thing you know, life is kind of passing by. The years are passing by. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that you're just simply not getting outside, not getting activity and all those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's the daily habits are a big factor. And one of the things I've been very blessed with in my work with Primal Zone, which is the clinic I partner with in Australia, is getting to see just a huge volume of guys coming through. And, there's a good amount of athletic people in there, but there's also just a good amount of general population guys who've heard about TRT, realized their levels are low, gone on treatment and feel much better, which is fantastic. But one of the things that's very interesting is that you can very strongly see trends at volume. When things scale up, trends become very obvious. And the daily habits in terms of what you're eating day to day, how much alcohol you're drinking day to day, or hopefully week to week, how well you're sleeping, and just how well you're looking after yourself in general, this is a much bigger factor for how well you respond to TRT than the nuances of the treatment protocol itself. Like, dial all those in is much, much, much more effective than taking an extra 20 milligrams of testosterone a week. So it's only through work and practice as a health coach in the TRT space have I really learned going, okay, the daily habits and how well you look after yourself is the biggest variable to take into account for how well your treatment's going to go, outside of just being on a decent, basic, good TRT protocol to begin with.
I have a quick question, because I know we're going to move on to what this all entails for people who do choose to use TRT, right? But I also wonder, you mentioned how some guys, they're doing all the right things and they see no change. And since you've worked with so many people, I wonder, have you seen an intervention just take a long time, right? Or is it like, okay, you've been doing this great for 6 months? Just because we know that someone who's like very heavy, it's going to take them potentially years to drop that weight. It's not going to take a few weeks or a few months. So I'm just wondering, like, the range you've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you also asked a question before that I didn't properly answer, so it ties into the same thing. So one of the ways that we can work out what's going on with someone's hormone levels is the signal from the brain to in men, the testicles, which is they're called gonadotropins. And on blood work, you've got luteinizing hormone, which is LH, and then follicle stimulating hormone, which is FSH. And to oversimplify the concept for people who might be new to this, LH is what tells your balls to make testosterone. FSH is what tells everything to make sperm. And there's nuance to that, but that's to put it simply. So typically we're looking at a reference range from 1 to 10. The units globally are the same. Now it might say 2 to 12 or whatever, but we'll say 1 to 10. So if someone's luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone are elevated above a 10, that gives us an indicator that the testicles are damaged to some degree. So what's happening is the brain is starting to scream at the testicles, and the brain's going, hey, I'm giving you a signal, but there's not enough testosterone coming back up here. So this feedback loop is basically saying, work harder, work harder, work harder. So in a woman who's menopausal, because the ovaries have basically gone kaput, those LH and FSH numbers will be through the sky, because the ovaries just kind of drop off a cliff. The testicles kind of fade over time very gradually. So you also see things like extreme testicular injury, guys who've had testicular cancer, chemotherapy, that will jack the numbers up. But the other thing that you see is guys who are obese or doing like shift work, who are super stressed. Shift work's an absolute killer. Drinking a bunch of alcohol, taking a bunch of drugs, opioids, things like this. You see that LH number go the opposite end, so it becomes suppressed at like a 1 or a 2. So what's now happening is the body is going, hey, the testicles are fine. We could make more hormones if we wanted to, but we're focusing on just like keeping you alive because you're not doing very well, because the body only has X amount of resources that it can do to conserve energy. And the body's primary goal is survival, and the last goal is reproduction. So if the body's in an inflamed, stressed state, all the energy gets diverted away from reproduction, which includes testosterone production. So what we want to do when we're looking at interventions is if someone comes in with like borderline low testosterone, but their LH and FSH is at like a 1 or a 2, we're going, we can see that your production is suppressed. So we need to unsuppress this. Conversely, if someone comes in with low levels and their LH is up at like a 20, it's going, your testicles are gone. Like this is completely non-fixable. What's interesting, which has kind of been a new thing, and this isn't covered in the literature, and I mentioned it in my Silverback presentation, is that we're getting guys with the LH, FSH numbers in the middle. So it's basically saying, I am locked in where I should be. I'm not suppressed. The testicles are working fine. We're not suppressing production. The signal from the testicles and the brain is working very well. It's right where it should be, but the levels are in the gutter. And then that's this relatively new phenomenon that we don't understand why that's happening.
Is it with a certain age range, or is it you just seeing it in
certain
general?
Age range, under 35, but particularly under 30. So we're going, is the system not developed properly? Is the system damaged due to saturation from endocrine disrupting chemicals growing up? But if we're in a situation being like, well, how can we increase your natural production if the production's shit, but it's not suppressed? And in those scenarios, there's nothing else we can really do. except come in and replace the production entirely.
It seems to be very difficult to find like a cure. You know, like I guess we could all agree that if you can get all your habits together and you can have awesome habits and you do it for 20 years, that maybe you could fix a lot of stuff. But even then, it still might be really difficult. And so these interventions of pharmaceuticals, as much as maybe some of us don't like it, they're kind of necessary sometimes.
Stop doing all the things you know you shouldn't be doing and start doing all the things you know you should be doing. If people are looking for where to start, it's that. Testosterone is what creates confidence. It's what gives the capacity for leadership. It's what drives the ability for one to become courageous and competent in their skill set. If you go on TRT and then live a lifestyle that you would never have those levels in the first place, your blood's going to get really